Howdy folks, and welcome back to another episode of Mingles with Jingles, featuring guest star Eddie, the incompetent cameramanian, once again. He's standing in for Rita while she's away playing with tanks for the weekend again. So, welcome back, Eddie. How the devil are you?
I'm living the dream. How are you?
So, what's this t-shirt you've got on then, Eddie?
It says, when I was in the Navy...
Eddie wasn't in the Navy.
I wasn't in the Navy. And I'd like to make that very clear, because I've never claimed that I was.
Yeah, we kind of covered this in the last time Eddie was here, because he's got all sorts of tales from the Navy, because you were in the Navy, Army Air Force Institute, the NAFI. He was a military shopkeeper.
Yes.
So he...
I saved the world from international terrorism 1 Mars bar at a time.
That's right. So he's always telling stories at work about when I was with the Navy, never when I was in the Navy.
And for my birthday last year, they got a t-shirt made for me.
Yeah.
And then complained that I never, ever, ever wore it. And I never wore it because it's a lie.
Yeah.
However, this is my way of appeasing them all.
So my t-shirt of the week, it's nothing particularly special. And I have to, I got this when I went, do you remember when I went to America for the Dayton Air Show?
Yes.
Did the American Air Force Museum.
Yes, I remember that.
And all of that. Went shooting and did
and
Gnome Against Food.
Gnome
USA.
yeah. Gnome versus Food,
Gnome
the
versus
entire
Food.
series bar one video.
Yeah. I got this as a souvenir, and I have to admit, I can't actually remember, because I remember the first time I showed this t-shirt, people were like, oh, you don't support the Reds, and I can't remember what city it is. I think it's the Cincinnati Reds, because it's Ohio, and Cincinnati's in Ohio.
Could be.
Yeah, but I have no idea. It was a souvenir. So this does not denote any particular affiliation with any particular football team. They are a football team, right? I don't know. Yeah, I know. American sports. I haven't got a clue.
When you say football, are you talking soccer or armoured rugby?
No, I mean armoured rugby, what they play in America. Yeah. Anyway, moving on swiftly. It's t-shirts out of the way. What have you brought to drink this week?
I have brought with me a pear cider.
Ooh.
It's just called pear cider.
Quality brand there, Eddie.
It's from Marks and Spencer's, so it's quite an expensive one.
Yeah, Marks and Spencer.
Refreshingly dry, fruity flavour from Western Cider Mill.
Marks and Spencer are sort of an upmarket supermarket here in the UK.
Yes.
Generally speaking, you pay more for stuff at Marks and Spencer's, but it's usually better. It's good stuff.
I think Stephen Fry famously once said, I love Sainsbury's because it keeps the scum out of Marks and Spencer. Actually, he said that about Waitrose, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, Waitrose and Marks and Spencer's, they're where the snobs go to shop.
You know it's good because it has a Union flag on the top.
Right.
Union Jack, if you...
And I've got, I haven't even got a clue how you pronounce that. It's another Belgian blonde, and I do like these. So I'm going to give this one a try. Saint Julien. I'm not sure if that should be pronounced with a French or a German accent. Who can tell? It's Belgian. It could be either way. Cheers, my dears.
No worries.
Any good?
Yes, but it went down the wrong way.
Oh dear, you're not supposed to breathe it, Eddie.
I did breathe it, yes. Not a great start, but no, yeah, that's good. Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, you can instantly tell this is Belgian. That's really good. So, have you been getting up to anything since we saw you last?
Yes, work mainly, but really randomly.
That's a shame.
Someone at work came up to me about a week and a half ago and said, "You're Eddie." I was like, "Yes, we've worked together for quite a few months now. That should be known to you." He's like, "No, you're camera minion Eddie."
Fame at last.
He's like, "Yes, of course," but he didn't know. I'd never told him, and the first thing, he's a fan of World of Tanks, and the first thing he knew about it was when he saw me in a video.
He's been working with you for months. He's aware of who camera minion Eddie is, but he never put two and two together. It's not the sharpest tool in the box, is he?
Well, no, he just... I don't appear in that many videos. He watches mainly your World of Tanks videos, which don't have a lot of...
Yeah, but I don't mention you that often. You usually only get mentioned when you're there on camera.
Yeah. I suppose so. Come on,
and it's like, here's his face. And you worked with him and you didn't put 2 and 2 to... Oh,
well, Steve made you famous, mate.
Yeah. Probably not in the way you were hoping.
I won't say your surname. I'll leave that one alone.
So anyway, you're aware that I recently, my old 28-inch 1080p monitor gave up the ghost after many years of faithful service. And
Yes.
And I bought a 4K monitor
Yes.
as a replacement at a pretty reasonable price. You can get them relatively cheap. This one was about £250, but coming hard on the heels of my brand new camera, it was a tough bullet to bite.
Yes.
So I can now game in 4K, and my old 1080 GTX 1080 graphics card can handle it pretty well.
Okay, so
what it can't do pretty well is render the video.
Right. So everybody else gets to see it in 1080 then?
No. It takes forever.
Oh, fair enough.
Because it's basically doing 4 times as much work as when I was encoding in 1080p for upload.
Okay. So you still get it in 4K?
Yeah, 4K at 60 frames per second is bringing my PC to its knees trying to render that. And of course, it takes 3 times as long to upload as well because it's a bigger file size and so on and so on. So I've had to bite the bullet even further.
So you're getting a new PC, aren't you?
Getting a new PC.
Yeah, I saw that. I was about to say, time to get a new PC by the sounds of it, but I figured that was what was coming anyway. I didn't want to ruin your moment.
So I have ordered, this time I actually did some homework instead of just saying, I'll have that, because I like the look of the numbers and I could afford it. Because I'm primarily upgrading for video rendering. And it turns out that the graphics card you have is mostly irrelevant for video rendering, which really surprised me because I thought, video is graphics, isn't it? And apparently you could render video with onboard integrated graphics without a graphics card, and it wouldn't make any difference. What matters is your processor speed, the number of cores it has, and how much RAM you have.
Okay.
So it's a good job I did some research. I mean, I'm getting a good graphics card anyway because I also want to play.
Yeah, you're going to play. It's going to be a gaming computer.
Yes, it's going to be a gaming computer that I use heavily for video rendering. So I did some research and tried to find out what I could get as the best bang for the buck because, I've been spending a lot of money in the last couple of months on new stuff, and I'm broke. So this will probably not mean a huge amount to you, but for those of you listening who know PC hardware, it's going to have an AMD Ryzen 9 3900 XT with 12 cores.
I had one of them, but the legs fell off.
With a processor running at 4.7 gigahertz with 70 megabytes of cache. More than 12 cores, and you start seeing, once you've got 6 cores, you start seeing diminishing returns on video rendering. You still get an improvement.
Yeah, but it's less of
an improvement. With 12 cores, that's, you can go 16 cores and still see an improvement, but it's like a 10-20% improvement. Whereas 12 cores over 6 cores, you're getting a 40 to 50% improvement. So anyway, 12 cores, I thought I could go higher, but I'm not made of money.
You're paying a lot for not much more.
Yeah. The motherboard is an Asus X570F, whatever the hell that means. I'm getting 32 gigabytes of Corsair Vengeance DDR4 RAM. My current system has 32 gigabytes, and that's fine for 2D video rendering. If I was doing 3D stuff, if I was rendering 3D models, 256 gigabytes probably wouldn't be enough, but I'm not doing any of that, so 32 gigabytes will do. I'm getting an 8 gigabyte GeForce RTX 2080 Super, which is about 4 times as fast as my current graphics card. So that should keep me covered for gaming. I'm really looking forward to trying Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. Have you seen screenshots or video of that?
No.
Oh, that's your mission. Go away onto YouTube, and that is bringing machines like this to its knees. But it looks astonishing. I figured what I want to do is just, because they've got the entire world mapped. It's really clever technology. There are a number of different cities and locations that are hand rendered.
Yeah.
And everything else,
ones.
yeah. And everything else is streamed over the internet from Bing Maps.
Bing Maps.
Yeah.
I was going to say
It's
there's another
Microsoft.
company
Yeah.
that's done this, but
It's a Microsoft product. They're not going to use Google Maps.
fair enough. No. There was a name that was coming to my head, and it
Yeah.
wasn't Bing Maps.
It wasn't
but no,
Bing.
yeah, if it's Microsoft, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Why does actually? I remember watching on Today. I found out like why is Bing still a thing? The search engine. Why does it always get bundled with Windows 10? With every version of Windows, Bing and Microsoft Edge now and Internet Explorer. And I can't remember. I'll have to look it up. But there's a reason. Bing, believe it or not, actually makes money for Microsoft. I'll look up the reason why and get back to you on it later, but it's actually pretty clever because I mean nobody uses Bing as a search engine. Nobody uses Bing Maps when they can use Google Maps. Nobody uses Bing when they can use Google. But it still keeps getting pushed out.
I've just been reminded of a meme I saw. It had the thing where it said, "Do you want Pornhub linked with your Google Plus account?" And it just says underneath, "I don't want anyone knowing I use Google Plus."
Yeah.
It's just reminded me of that, you know.
Oh, Google Plus was a bloody nightmare. This is what happens every time Eddie's here. I have a script. And just forget
Sorry,
it.
mate. Sorry.
Google
Carry
Plus.
on.
No, but Google Plus is a good one to talk about as well because it was just so. It's like Google looked at all of these social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram, and they thought, "Wow, you know, the amount of money that's being made here, we should do this because you know we're Google.
Yeah.
We're massive." You know, there's all these Google apps that you get with Google. Let's have Google. We'll call it Google Plus. Off you go. Design something, and it was the most annoying and intrusive piece of shit you have ever had to deal with in your life. And they kept trying to force it on you.
Yeah, it came in with YouTube and things like that.
Yeah.
It invaded your YouTube account, and
it was like, right, you have to link your YouTube account to your Google Plus account. Why? They reckoned in the first month of its release that Google Plus saw hundreds of millions hundreds of millions of new users, but what they neglected to mention was that those hundreds of millions of new users used Google Plus for 5 minutes, exactly as long as it took to link their Google Plus account to their YouTube account, and then they never went back to it.
There's another meme. Sorry to mention other memes. It's got like all the social medias in easy terms to understand. It defines them all, and the last one is Google Plus, and its definition of that is you work for Google.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm also getting a 2 terabyte Seagate Barracuda SATA 3. It's a 7200 RPM hard drive. It's purely going to be used for storage because basically all the video that I render and all the games that I play are going to be installed on a 2 terabyte Samsung 970 Evo Plus M2 NVMe solid state drive with up to 3,500 megabytes read and 3,300 megabyte write. One seriously fast. I mean, you can get faster, but you'd probably pay twice as much.
And so, you don't need faster.
I don't need faster than that. Although I've been playing, there's a game that I've been playing recently. Wasteland 3. Have you ever heard of Wasteland or Wasteland 2?
I've heard of it.
Yeah. Basically, you remember the original Fallout games when they were 3D, isometric, cat destroying bits of furniture and poking her nose into boxes, top-down, isometric, turn-based, before they went all Bethesda, first person. Wasteland were basically developed by people that worked for, I believe, Interplay and possibly Black Isle when they were doing the isometric Fallout games. And it's basically an isometric, like classic Fallout style game.
Yeah.
I never played the original Wasteland, but I did play Wasteland 2, and it was amazing. And Wasteland 3 just came out on PC. It's on Steam. The price is a bit steep. It's like 50-something pounds, which is not at all what I was expecting, but it's really, really good. And it's an isometric, top-down, turn-based. And what really surprised me was how long it takes to load the levels on a hard drive. Even a hard drive running at 7,200 RPM, which is the one that I have. I thought, well, you know, this is the kind of game I can install on the hard drive on the new PC. Nope, it's probably going to have to go on the SSD as well because the loading screens between levels are absolutely horrific. Modern gaming. I might regret only getting a 2 terabyte SSD. Well, anyway.
Only.
I know. What a time to be alive. Oh, I've only got 2 terabytes worth of SSD. Oh, no. Yeah, anyway.
I read a book called Off to Be the Wizard, and I'm not going to go into what it's really about, but basically he time travels and is talking to a guy from the 80s who's talking about the power of his computer, and he's got a Commodore 64.
The power of his 386XX.
Yeah. I'm working with 156 bytes of RAM.
This thing runs at 33 megahertz.
Yeah. And when you're saying
I can press this turbo button and it goes up to 36 megahertz.
Yeah.
I used to have one of them. I had a 386DX, which was basically a 486DX that had failed.
Yeah.
Because you weren't supposed to get 386DXs. But mine was. So it was like a 386, just a little bit better, but not quite as good as a 486. People are like, what are you talking about? What? All you kids today, you don't know you're alive. Old school PC gaming.
Number 5 in Short Circuit. If you watch that back now, he's running on, I can't remember what it is, but it's a tiny amount of RAM, and you're like, what? How is this?
Yeah. He's running on 256 kilobytes of RAM.
Yeah.
Nobody can ever possibly use that much memory.
Yeah. Anyway, great film, Short Circuit.
Yeah, very, very good movie. Anyway, didn't that also star one of my great crushes of the 80s when I was growing up? Ali Sheedy from The Breakfast Club. It did. Yeah, she was the girl in it.
She might have been. I thought you were about to tell me something about Steve Guttenberg that I didn't know that. I was getting ready for you to say Steve Guttenberg.
Not Steve, Police Academy, 3 Men and a Baby, Guttenberg, no. No, Ali Sheedy, who was the goth in The Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
And in, that's her, with a dandruff.
Yeah. We're making her sound good there.
We're really selling it. She was in War Games as well before that with Matthew Broderick. Actually, I saw the producers recently.
Yeah.
Matthew Broderick's like 60 and he still looks 20.
I know, it's I can't remember. I think I saw him in a Christmas film a couple of years ago, and he's the same. Yeah,
he signed a deal with Satan for eternal youth.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Matthew Broderick from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I'm sure you know.
Not to be confused with John Cryer. He looks so similar.
They do look very similar.
I read John Cryer's autobiography.
John Cryer from 2.5 Men, who previously was in 16 Candles with all these 80s teen
was also in Superman 4 and is now Lex Luthor in the DC universe.
Really? John Cryer is Lex Luthor?
He shaved his head bald. He went the whole way.
Wow.
He properly went for it.
Shall we get on with it?
Yeah, sorry, I got sidetracked. I do that.
This is what happens when Eddie turns up.
Sorry, my bad.
We've got some news. A bit of a crossover here for people who play World of Tanks and World of Warships and who also do miniature wargaming.
Okay.
Mark sent me this message. I didn't catch his surname. He's a retailer of tabletop miniature wargaming in the UK, and I may as well put a link here to his website.
Sounds like a good plan.
But one
actually
of the UK,
put it in,
I must remember actually put it in. I'll say it just in case I forget. www.wargamestore.com. There you go, nice and easy. You probably haven't, but anybody who's into miniature gaming has probably heard of Warlord Games. And they're soon releasing a World War II naval miniature tabletop rule set and miniatures range called Victory at Sea.
Okay.
They've got a deal with Wargaming to provide bonus codes with their upcoming products, which are coming out Saturday, 29th of August, yesterday. That is yesterday, isn't it?
That is yesterday, yes.
Every day's a Sunday for me. Similarly, Battlefront, which is a New Zealand company with a regional head office in the UK, have struck a deal with Wargamer for World of Tanks. Again, offering bonus codes for World of Tanks for physical purchases of their recently rebranded and relaunched game, simply called Tanks. So, nice one, Mark. I'm sure people will find that interesting and possibly even quite useful.
And we got through one page of the
We got through a whole page. We're doing well, Eddie. Fist bump.
We're not supposed to do that anymore. It's supposed to be elbow.
Oh, is it an elbow bump? Yeah, sorry. Social distancing. Yeah, never mind. So I got a message from Oh, he's got his name at the end here. This is a 2-page message. It was a good one. I'll have a shot at pronouncing his name. He's from Singapore. Sorab Pal, and he's in the Singaporean army. And the message, I thought I'd like to read out because it's really good. Dear Jingles, I've been unbelievably, this guy isn't English. It's really, really well written. I've been procrastinating sending this email for a long time now, and your last episode of Mingles with Jingles, which left me laughing throughout, finally made me do it. Heads up, this is a very, very long and wordy email. Yeah, 2 pages. I've watched pretty much every one of your videos since 2012-ish, before War Thunder Ground Forces and World of Warships closed beta. I was in secondary school then and barely played video games of any sort because I was far too involved in studies and sports. He's a sailor, the kind that actually uses ships with sails.
Yeah.
Back then, I loved anything that moved and could appreciate a touch of war history. So when I found you in World of Tanks, I got hooked. Not just the content, but your personality, and I've been watching your videos ever since. To me, the most memorable of your videos was the one of your first Tank Fest. Oh, that was a good one.
That really was.
Yeah.
We didn't know what was coming.
No, we didn't. In particular, I remember you talking about the sound of a Leopard's engine and the deep earth-moving rumble you felt as it drove past. And I remember myself imagining what it'd be like. That is true, actually.
Yeah.
It really, really is true. When a Leopard goes past at full speed, you feel it in your lungs.
Your heart moves a bit in a way that it shouldn't.
It's like nothing you've ever felt or heard. It's just amazing. Well, I finished school a couple of years later and was conscripted into the army for my 2 years of national service. He's from Singapore. Honestly, I wasn't looking forward to any of it. That changed after basic training when I received my posting order. For the next 2 years, the sound of a Leopard's engine became my daily wake-up call. I was a designated gunner on a Leopard 2.
Nice.
Life in the army wasn't easy to me. I consider myself something of a pacifist. I need some amount of freedom to operate, and I didn't quite have the thick skin I needed to overlook the hostility of the culture there. Yeah, that's fair enough.
No.
But when things toned down and I could take a step back, breathe and separate myself from my anxious mind, I'd find that I was surrounded by moments of beauty. Moments like my first night outfield when I sat on the engine deck to do maintenance and saw moonlight catch the mist, and through it the faint silhouette of a tank and another soldier who seemed just as lost in the moment as I was, all the time in Germany, when my buddies had a sudden desire to set fire to something, and waited until the middle of the night to grab spray cans and a lighter and make a zero-effort campfire.
I've got a story in a minute.
Okay.
I'll let you finish, obviously.
Or the time I travelled on the same roads, and that took me home every weekend, except that I wasn't looking through a window because I was on a tank. There were also the totally awesome moments as well, in live firings, the anticipation of the wait, the rush of adrenaline as I'd spot a target, the screaming in the comms, the rock of the tank as I'd pull the trigger, the smell of propellant, the clang of the cartridge, and through the smoke, the sight of the target sinking back into the ground, all feeling like the badass of badasses. In every one of those moments, I'd look back at that Tank Fest video and grow acutely aware of where life had taken me, and by doing that, I could gain an appreciation for every single one of them. Even though I didn't have much rest at night, I'd make time before I slept to watch your videos, because they calmed me down, put me to sleep, and served as something consistent in my ever-changing journey. Page 3. So I'd like to thank you for helping me survive the toughest time of my life, for giving me something to look forward to every day, and for making me smile in my most depressing days. I started writing this email last October in camp. I finished my service in November, and I've been very much enjoying my freedom. I'll be flying off for college in a couple of days, and I can't wait for life to finally move on. I've attached a couple of pictures from my adventures, though I'd appreciate it if you kept them and my identity from sharing. Although one of the pictures is okay because it's actually appeared on the Singapore Army's Facebook page. But I won't be sharing the other pictures that he sent me.
Okay.
Although you can have a look because they're pretty cool.
Fair enough, cheers.
I wish you good health and a fulfilling future. Rest assured I'll continue to be a loyal salt miner for many years to come. Warmest regards, Sorav Pal. That's amazing. I'm really glad that. I mean, I'm just some silly old sod who sticks videos up on YouTube.
Yeah, the reason you got into this in the first place is hilarious. You wanted somewhere to save your games of World of Tanks for after they patched it.
Yeah.
After they patched it and you couldn't play your old game replays, if you had a really good game, and
the replay sites that I was using went under because they weren't supported officially by Wargaming.
So you made them into videos and put them on YouTube. And here we are.
And now I get emails like this.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're most welcome. Thank you very much for your email. You said you had a story about instant firelighting.
Well, yeah, it was more to do with the paint in the middle of the night. Okay, this is a story about you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Right? And I can tell this one. One of the things that happened in the last video was everybody commented they want more stories.
Yeah.
And while I have hundreds of stories about you, you have a similar amount about me. And also, a lot of the stories I have not only incriminate you, but incriminate me. And I'm not that stupid. But this one doesn't incriminate any of us, so I can get away with this one.
That's true. I had nothing to do with the incident.
Yes, nor did I.
But I had everything to do with the resolution of the incident.
Yes. Right, okay, so this is 2004. We're on HMS Newcastle, the only ship we ever shared together.
I'm surprised you remember the exact year. I certainly couldn't.
It was the greatest deployment of my life.
It was a good deployment.
2004.
Mediterranean.
Med, yeah. And we're coming...
Stana 4 Med?
Something like that.
It was a NATO force with the German frigate in command.
We're coming into Sicily, into Catania, I think.
Yeah.
And basically, they thought it would be a good idea to put the Greek ship next to the Turkish ship.
Yeah.
And the British ship next to the German ship.
The German ship, which was the commander of the flotilla. He was the most senior
The
captain.
German ship, we go in first, the German ship comes in after us and crashes into us. They did not do a good job. They bumped, so we are now lifted, we have got the high ground here. You crashed into us until that first night.
Yeah.
Because we went ashore, we all had a nice run ashore. I got back at about 11:30.
I did not go ashore, I was on duty that night.
Fair enough. Got back about 11:30, I was fine. Went to bed, was woken up really early in the morning. Call the Hounds was normally 7 to start work at 8, but I think Call the Hounds went off at 5:30 that morning.
Yeah, so we knew something was up.
So something was definitely up. And what had happened is in the middle of the night, and I say the middle of the night, it was between 12:30 and 1 o'clock because the Germans were doing rounds of their ship and it wasn't there at 12:30
yes.
and it was there at 1.
Yes.
What had happened is someone had gone into our paint store, broken into our paint store, taken a tin of blue paint and a tin of yellow paint, gone up to the front of the ship and thrown them at the German ship. And it was all over there.
All over the deck and all down the side.
Yeah, all down the sides. And then the cans had fallen into the sea and started floating away. They were hoiked out as evidence because, they might have fingerprints on them. And we were all at stupid o'clock in the morning made to stand on the flight deck and be lectured at by the
XO, David.
It was
Prentice.
the XO.
Yeah. Lieutenant Commander David Prentice, fantastic guy.
Greatest XO I've ever served under.
Yeah. Greatest XO there has ever been, and I'll fight anybody who tries to tell me
absolutely. And I will back you up on that one. Great man. But he gave us a...
Oh, yeah.
He properly took us to task for that one, and rightly so. Yeah. And what happened was they wanted to... It was obviously not certain people, because certain people were at certain places, but they didn't have...
It wasn't the quartermaster or the boatswain's mate, because they were manning the gangway at the time. It wasn't the HQ1 watchkeeper, because he was keeping a watch in HQ1, and so on and so on.
But what they decided to do was stop leave for everyone.
Yes.
And that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
But then they changed their minds and said it has to be a junior rate, because none of the senior rates or officers would do this.
Yeah. I know a couple of petty officers on board that ship who absolutely would have done something like that when they were drunk.
But they let them go on leave, and they said, all junior rates, you are confined to ship. Now, here's the thing. I wasn't counted in that, because I could have gone ashore.
Because you were a civilian.
I was a civilian. You can't do that to me.
Yeah.
But I thought, no, let's not be... If they're being stopped from going ashore, I'm not going to do it, because I don't want to be that...
Yeah, you don't want to be that guy.
That guy who pulls his civvy card and isn't part of the team.
Yeah.
So I stayed on board as well.
Out of solidarity, Eddie stayed on board with the rest of the junior rates.
Yes, but I was really annoyed because I wanted to go to the PX that day.
Now, this was my first day off in Sicily. Or was it Cyprus? I can't remember.
No, it was definitely Sicily.
It was Sicily. This was my first day off.
Yeah.
So I'd been on duty the night when the incident happened, and obviously couldn't go ashore because I was duty first aider. And I was looking forward to getting my first day ashore.
Yeah.
But, something had happened, and when they cancelled all leave, I was like, that's fair enough.
Yeah, it happens.
But then when they said, okay, the senior rates and the officers can go ashore, but the junior rates have to stay on board, I was like, hang on a minute. I'm Nuneaton bitter. I am not having this.
No. So, we got to stay on board all that day, and they literally said, as soon as someone comes forward and admits that they did this, we'll grant leave to everybody. We'll grant leave to everybody.
And as far as I'm concerned, the culprits had already gone ashore because it was two of the petty officers. Nobody knows, but I suspect.
To this day, we don't know. But yeah. But either way, nobody was going to admit to something they hadn't done because they're not idiots. But you spent that evening with your nose in the rule book.
Yes.
And you came up with quite a good sneak around.
Yes. See, here's the thing. If you want to make a representation for ill treatment, it has to be. You can't do it as a group because that can be construed as mutiny. Because naval regulations are really, really old. So if you want to make a complaint and say that you have been mistreated, because nobody was suggesting that I had tossed a can of paint over the side of the German ship, but my leave was being stopped. Oh, but we're stopping everybody's leave. Well, I'm not speaking for everybody, sir. I'm speaking for myself.
Yeah.
Well, we couldn't guarantee your safety if you went ashore because there were a lot of very angry Germans on that ship. Oh, but you seem to be able to guarantee the safety of the senior rates and the officers. So I put in my representation, which went to my divisional officer, and he said, I am not touching it, which was the chief writer, Daz Bale. And he said, fuck off, Bobby, I am not touching that with a barge pole. Take that to the supply officer. It was my head of department. The supply officer looked at it and said, well, there's nothing that we can really do about this because, leave has been stopped. And I said, yep, absolutely understand your position, sir. Not satisfied. Escalate the representation. So then I had to go to the executive officer.
Yeah.
So the supply officer took me up to see the executive officer. He'd obviously been briefed and he knew it was coming. And he again gave me the reasoning. And I gave him, I absolutely understand your position, sir. Not satisfied. I wish to escalate this to the captain. So then the captain had to sit down and listen to me go through these exact, leave's been stopped. Nobody is even suggesting that I had anything to do with it, but my leave's been cancelled. So what did I do wrong? Well, you didn't do anything wrong. At least I hope you didn't do anything wrong. We can't prove that you did, we can't prove that you didn't. But one of the junior rates, how do you know it was a junior rate, sir? As far as I'm aware, no evidence has been recovered. Well, we suspect. Well, I think that's a little... And to his credit, he gave me my 5 minutes in court. He listened to what I had to say, and I made all the points that I'd already made to the supply officer and the executive officer and my DO, that, apparently they're keeping us on board, not because they think that we are the ones that did it, but because they can't guarantee our safety if we go ashore with the Germans. What with all the chiefs and POs and officers who are going ashore with the Germans. You don't think they're at risk from angry German sailors and so on and so on.
Especially as some of them probably did it.
Yeah. So, the captain heard me out and he said, well, I appreciate you bringing this up to me and I'm sorry that I couldn't resolve it to your satisfaction. I said, that's absolutely fine, sir. I'm just happy that you didn't brush it under the carpet and you gave me my chance to have my say.
Let's be clear on this. Other XOs, other captains would have just said, fuck off, Bobby.
Yeah. But they gave me my chance to have my say and that was it. I'd said my piece. And then I went back to work. And 15 minutes later...
Yeah, you were still walking back to the mess at this point.
Yeah. I'd gone back to the ship's office, made sure that all my work had been put away, I'd locked it up, and then I was on my way back down to the mess deck. Not 15 minutes later, do you hear there? XO speaking. Leave. Leave has been granted.
What he actually said is, we've made forward progress in identifying the culprits. Therefore, leave in accordance with daily orders.
Everybody in the mess knew what I was doing. They were all waiting for me to come back. But
you missed the pipe somehow, hadn't you? Until you walked into the mess, sort of a little...
Somehow I didn't hear it. I walked into the mess and everybody stood up and was like, "Hey!" I was like, what? Didn't you hear the pipe? What pipe? Leave's been granted.
We got leave 15 minutes after you went and saw the captain. And none of us knew what you'd said. No. We just knew that Bobby had gone up to see the captain, and 15 minutes later they announced leave.
So that was
that gave us the last day ashore.
Yeah, because we were only there for 2 days.
3. We had the first day. We were banned on the second day. We got the third
that's
day.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. So I did actually get to go ashore in Sicily.
Yeah,
and it was really nice.
I got absolutely shit-faced and vomited all over.
Oh, you didn't over the? Was it Phil?
Yeah,
the leading steward. Poor Phil. He really,
actually,
really nice
let's pretend it was vomit because I remember what I actually did.
No, it wasn't vomit, wasn't it? No.
Yeah.
No.
Let's pretend I just vomited
Poor
on Phil.
the leading steward, what a nice guy.
Really nice.
Really
and he gave me straight away as well, which was worse.
Yeah, really didn't deserve to have the
I
bed
had the
underneath
top
you.
pit, yeah.
You had the middle bunk, you had the top bunk.
Yeah.
You lost control of your bladder during the night.
Right. What did I say about let's pretend it's vomit, shall I?
Sorry, that's what happened, yeah. Actually, we've got some more on that subject coming up towards the end of this in my notes. I saw something on it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen on YouTube. But anyway, saving that for later. So, more PC gaming news, or some PC gaming news. I don't think we've covered any so far. Sony has decided to start porting more of its PlayStation exclusive titles to the PC. And the reason for that, well, there was a whole press release, but I've translated it from the corporate PR bullshit. And basically, they've been trying to get PC gamers enticed over to the PlayStation, whether that's PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5, and I'm sure a lot of people are getting very excited about the PlayStation 5, but nowhere near enough. I mean,
are they going to put a mouse and keyboard with it? Because otherwise I don't see them drawing most PC gamers over.
I mean, I'm sure that there are some PC gamers who think, I might like to have a go with this PlayStation 5 thing when it comes out. But you're not going to need to, because Sony have failed to entice PC gamers to move over to the PlayStation. They don't believe that they're ever going to entice PC gamers to move over to the PlayStation.
Just said how they do it.
Because the PC is clearly superior anyway. And so they are now committing to port more of these PlayStation exclusive titles like Horizon Zero Dawn, which came out on PC this month.
Yeah.
Although hopefully they're going to do a better job of it than they did with Horizon Zero Dawn, which is a bug-ridden mess. But could only get better. And it really, really is a good game. Once they sort the bugs out, it's going to be amazing. So all of these PlayStation exclusives are going to be PlayStation and PC exclusives. They'll probably come out the PlayStation first, but they will migrate over to PC. So the glorious PC gaming master race has all kinds of PlayStation exclusives and PlayStation 5 exclusives to look forward to coming over to the PC from the PlayStation. Sadly, no word from Microsoft on all of those amazing Xbox exclusive titles like yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, this is great. Now, I've never heard of this guy, but Call of Duty Warzone live streamer, who goes by the name of Mr. Golds, found himself in a rather awkward situation recently.
Go on.
In the middle of a stream, while he was regaling his audience of nearly 1,800 viewers about how amazingly shit-hot great he is at playing Call of Duty Warzone, a cheat engine he was using popped up on his desktop for the whole world to see.
Always fun when that happens. There are some really good videos on YouTube of people that have been caught out.
Yes. The moment came while Mr. Golds was waiting in a Warzone lobby and was clipped and shared to Twitter by Erase, who also streams Call of Duty on Twitch. He was quoted as saying, "Just because I have good recoil control, I'm good at the game," Mr. Gold said during the fateful moment. "The first time you see someone good at the game," now I'm talking with you guys because I play, and I look at the chat and it's like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? What's going on, guys? Have you ever seen anyone play like me? Unfortunately for Mr. Golds, an engine owning window is clearly visible in the background of his desktop underneath the task manager. Engine owning promises high quality cheats for a variety of games including Modern Warfare and Warzone. We believe that everyone should have the ability to win and enjoy online matches, the engine owning website says. Scum. Yeah. Despite his protests of innocence, how can you protest his innocence when it's right there on your desktop background in the middle of a live stream? But despite his protests of innocence, Twitch appears to see the matter differently as his channel is now gone. Twitch's community guidelines clearly and specifically forbids cheating in online games. Any activity such as cheating, hacking, botting or tampering that gives the account owner an unfair advantage in an online multiplayer game is prohibited. This also includes exploiting another broadcaster's live broadcast in order to harass them in games, such as stream sniping. It's not known whether this is a permanent ban or just a temporary suspension, but it's an amusing bit of comeuppance either way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it also highlights Warzone's ongoing problems with cheaters, which have persisted even after Infinity Ward asked everybody to please stop cheating.
I can't believe that didn't work.
Yeah, there's an effective anti-cheating method for you. Can everybody please stop? Oh, there goes my phone. That'll be Rita interrupting this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles.
God bless her.
So,
Give her a damn good ignoring to.
Yes.
That kind of reminds me...
They're going to hear that in the background.
I will talk over it. I have no issue with this. That reminds me of that bit in Demolition Man. Where
She'll try again in a minute.
Demolition Man, where he goes, "We've got this rule. How can he be breaking it?"
It's a rule.
It's the law.
Yeah, it's the law. You can't be doing it. It's against the law.
And he just expects them to follow it.
Yeah, Warzone's got a pretty bad cheating problem. I have 12,000 games played on Fortnite over 3 years, and I've died to cheaters 3 times, said former Call of Duty Pro player and current Warzone streamer Jack Courage Dunlop in a tweet. Meanwhile, I've played Warzone for 4 hours, and I've died to cheaters 6 times.
Wow.
Infinity Ward do try to stop cheating. They try.
Yeah.
They've issued waves of bans, and people who are suspected of cheating get confined to gaming lobbies that
With
are
other
only
people.
populated with other people suspected of cheating.
Imagine if you weren't cheating and
Yeah.
you got put in there. How shit is that going to be for you?
You just give up. So that's it. Yeah, no more today. But apparently they're not having much luck. And their latest anti-cheat strategy was quite literally to ask everybody very nicely to please stop. Last week, Activision confirmed the upcoming Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War with a video built around a real-world interview with Soviet defector Yuri Bezmenov, in which he described a 4-stage Soviet strategy dedicated to ending American dominance in the world. Demoralization, destabilization, crisis, and normalization. Clips of real-world historical events, the Vietnam War, riots in the US, that sort of thing played throughout.
Yeah.
Earlier this week, that video was very quietly deleted and replaced with one roughly half the length. Activision made no comment as to why this happened. But according to the South China Morning Post, it's because the original video contained a brief clip of footage from the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre. They called it the Tiananmen Square protests, but, you know, I call it the Tiananmen Square massacre because that's what it was.
Yeah.
The video was first replaced with one that had the clip blacked out, but at some point later the whole thing was pulled and replaced. Yeah, Blizzard Activision, you can't risk all of that Chinese money, can you? Can't risk offending the Chinese, not when you've been so busy bending over and taking up the arse from them for years now. Do you remember they banned the whole Hearthstone? There was a Hearthstone tournament. Don't know if you heard of it. You probably haven't. Hearthstone's not really your thing, but a Hearthstone Grandmaster.
Not even sure I know what Hearthstone is.
Okay, doesn't matter. It's a card game that you
Okay.
Hearthstone Grandmaster Chung Ing Wai was in a post-match interview after he won, and he was like, "Freedom for Hong Kong," and they immediately cut it, and then banned him and took his prize off him. In fact, even the 2 interviewers got in the shit. They weren't even asking him about freedom for Hong Kong. He said it in front of them, so they were tarred with it.
Yeah, but how did they take his prize? He'd already won that.
Well, it was right after the match. It was a post-match interview where he'd won a prize, and that prize I don't think had actually been credited to him yet. But it was like, right, and they just basically erased him from the historical record, so as to avoid upsetting the Chinese.
Yeah.
And then a couple of weeks later, Blizzard's president, J. Allen Brack, came out, and it was glorious watching him squirm. It was like, do you remember when Electronic Arts were in the shit, and this Electronic Arts mouthpiece, some shark in a suit, was wheeled out to talk about loot boxes, and she'd clearly
how
been,
it's not gambling.
Yeah, it's not. She'd clearly been told at the second they mentioned loot boxes, so we don't call them loot boxes. There's another phrase that we use for them, and she was. I can just imagine the briefing. She was like, "You want me to say what? Oh God, nobody's getting paid enough for this." So she was in front of this hearing, and the chairman of the panel or whatever was talking about loot boxes. Oh, excuse me, we don't call them loot boxes. We call them surprise mechanics. Her face, the look on her face, she was aware, completely aware of the shit that was coming out of her mouth.
Yeah.
But she had to say it.
That was the party line.
That was the party line, and watching her squirm was glorious. Well, it was exactly the same thing when J.R. and Brack came out after this, because on the one hand, the Western audience went berserk.
Yeah.
So he had to come out and say something to placate the Western audience. But at the same time, he didn't want to upset China. So watching him desperately trying to not actually say sorry and desperately try to not actually mention what it was that happened, because that's how the Communist Party of China operate. They don't. If something happens that they don't like, it never happened as far as they're concerned. So he couldn't even address what it was that he was not saying sorry for.
For a long time, Doctor Who didn't exist in China.
Really?
Yeah. The Chinese government didn't like the idea that someone could go back in time and change things. So they just... Apparently it has started to creep back in now, but they just stopped it existing.
Oh. So anyway, yeah. Nice one, Blizzard Activision. Oh, do you remember the whole Apple, Google, Epic Games thing?
Yes.
Yes.
The three-way where we want everyone to lose.
Yes, because they're all shit.
Yeah.
There have been developments.
Go on.
So I'm sure you're all aware of what's going on, but to briefly summarise, Epic engineered this whole crisis where they
Allegedly.
No, there's nothing alleged about it. Epic deliberately engineered this whole crisis so that they could try to make themselves look like the aggrieved party. And we're on the side of the little guys. We're here for the gamers, claiming that Apple was being anti-consumer. To a degree, they were right.
Yeah.
And the same with Google on the Play Store with regards to microtransactions in Fortnite, which Epic wanted to pocket without giving the agreed-upon cut to Apple on the App Store and to Google on the Play Store. And so they bypassed the agreements that they'd made, and when they got called out on it, they immediately launched a lawsuit and started the hashtag Free Fortnite and Apple's the man, 1980 Fortnite, and so on and so on. Well, they
I have to say that's quite clever. 1980 Fortnite.
That's
got to give them credit for that. Clever.
They had clearly prepped this well in advance.
Yeah.
Right. So they engineered the situation, and unfortunately, you sow the wind, you reap the whirlwind, because they totally underestimated just how fucking evil Apple is. Because Apple, Google said, right, that's it, Fortnite's off the Play Store. Apple said, yep, Fortnite's off the Play Store. But they're concerned, they weren't taking issue with Fortnite, because Fortnite's just a piece of software. They were taking issues with Unreal.
Yeah.
So they terminated Unreal from the Apple Store, which means that they also terminated the Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
And now all the developer tools on the Apple Store, if your game runs on the Unreal Engine, you've got no access to the developer tools anymore.
Oh.
Hello,
Someone wants to get in the shop.
Hello, Shu. What are you doing there? You big ginger
Trying
chonker.
to knock Eddie's beer over.
Oh, I see. So, anyway, Epic shit themselves because they had no idea that Apple was as evil as they actually are, and sought an injunction. So, this week, or last week, lawyers representing Apple and Epic Games appeared before a judge via a Zoom meeting on Monday to settle the first big showdown of their lawsuit. Epic's temporary restraining order against Apple, which has plans to revoke Epic's developer account and remove the Unreal Engine from its platforms, in addition to Fortnite. Epic is arguing that it would be irreparably harmed. It would.
Yeah.
Apple's not stupid, they know that. If Fortnite was removed and its developer account was terminated on August 28th, because the lawsuit proper won't be heard in court until April of 2021. The results are in, and they're a mixed result for Epic Games. US District Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers has granted a temporary restraining order forbidding Apple from removing Epic's Apple developer accounts or denying Unreal Engine updates on Apple operating systems. The move would lead to, and we're quoting here, potential significant damage to both the Unreal Engine platform itself and to the gaming industry generally, including on both third-party developers and gamers, the court document reads. On the other hand, Apple will not be required to make Fortnite available on its App Store in the meantime. The current predicament appears of its own making, the judge ruled, referring to Epic.
Yeah.
So this is what Apple's saying. Epic made this problem. Epic can make the problem go away. And the judge agrees.
Yeah.
Epic Games remains free to maintain its agreements with Apple in breach status as this litigation continues. In their arguments, Epic's lawyer reiterated the harm that will be caused to Epic Games if Fortnite and the Unreal Engine were removed from the App Store, pointing to customer complaints as damage to its reputation and claiming developers are already abandoning Unreal. I doubt that. Apple repeated its message that Epic's injury was self-inflicted and that it simply needed to return Fortnite to its status quo, the version of the game that complied with Apple's in-app payment rules. On this, Apple and the judge are in full agreement. I loved the part where Epic tried to say that Apple was monopolising the App Store and Google was monopolising the Play Store. And apparently Steam's Valve, are monopolising Steam. Well, that's three different monopolies. You know what the word mono part in monopoly means, right?
That's three different things that do the same thing.
Yeah. There's a guy down the road, runs a corner shop next to the vet. I believe he owns a monopoly on everything that gets sold in his store as well.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that if you walk into Asda, they have a monopoly on everything that's sold in Asda supermarkets. I don't think that's what you...
I don't think that means what you think it means.
I don't think that word means what Epic seem to be trying to make everybody think it means. But anyway, whatever.
Of course Google have a monopoly on Play Store. It's their store.
Their store. It's not just us, is it?
No. Google aren't allowing Apple to sell any of their things in the Play Store.
No. Oh, wow. Funnily enough, Valve don't let Google or Apple sell anything on Steam. Because it's Steam. Anyway, that's just about gone through the... I wonder if you can see this little cat in the background behind me.
She's about to break your models.
No, get away from the Lee and the KV2.
Actually, that's a Lee. I feel that would improve it.
Yeah, you can do what you like with the Lee. Anyway, I've gone through the script. There was just one other thing that I wanted to talk about this week, and it's the funniest thing I've seen on YouTube this week.
Go on then.
Are you aware of the YouTube channel First We Feast?
No.
Are you aware of the
video
series? Akizuki, get down from there. Never work with children or animals. Are you aware of the video series Hot Ones?
No.
It's where a guy called Sean Evans sits down with a board of wings.
Oh, actually, yes, I am.
Yeah.
And you have to eat each one, and the last one's like a Carolina Reaper or something.
Well, it's not quite as bad as a Carolina Reaper, but like the hot sauce that we like, Frank's hot sauce, is about a 700 on the Scoville scale.
Yeah. Akizuki, honestly.
Leave the German prisoners alone. Fascinating. And that's a really, really nice, tasty hot sauce. The one that they go up to, and it's rated about 700 on the Scoville scale.
They go up to
550,000 Scovilles at the top end.
Yeah.
I believe a California Reaper surpasses 1 million.
Yeah.
So it's like suicidally hot sauce on these wings.
You have to sign waivers
if you're going to eat a Carolina Reaper. Anyway, so they have various celebrities appear, and the interviewer Sean Evans is really, really good, and he matches them. So he they only have to do it once. He does it every time.
Yeah,
eating these hot wings, and they do this really good interviews because they really dig in and they come up with some really. The guests constantly say, these are some of the best interview questions anybody has ever asked me. So they're worth watching for that alone.
Yeah.
But of course, people watch them just to watch the celebrities suffer as they try to get through the hot wings. Well, I watched one this week. There was a guy called, I can't remember his name, Bobby Lee. He's a Korean American actor and comedian.
Yeah.
And he was going for it. He was clearly suffering, but he was determined to make it all the way through. And I've seen people burst into tears, and then try to wipe the tears out of their eyes, which is immediately the wrong thing to do, because of course you've got chili sauce all over your fingers, and then it just makes it worse. You
can't even wash that off either. You should
because
not.
It's chili oil. The water doesn't get rid of it.
No.
You need detergent. So and people like Terry Crews famously burst into tears in the middle of his hot ones.
He's one of the biggest men you've ever seen.
Yeah. But this Bobby Lee guy actually shit himself.
Wow. Wow. That's impressive.
The thing was, right at the start, when they said, "Are you going to be okay with this?" He said, I get diarrhea. And that was a sort of foreshadowing of things that were going to come. And at the beginning, he was telling a story about how when they were doing some TV show, he actually took a shit on the carpet of the executive producer's office.
Nice.
He didn't mean to, but he went in there, and two of the script writers were in there bashing the script out, and they just started messing and joking around. And one of them dared him to put some Tums, they're like Alka-Seltzers, up his arse. So he did, because of course you do. If you get dared to do it, you do it.
Yeah. He clearly has the Matlow mentality.
Yes. So, but your arse can be a bit moist, and they
set them off.
They set them off, so they started effervescing, and this bubbling jet of Tums and
fecal pollen.
Yes, started spurting out of his ass. So he squeezed. And he jettisoned the Tums, but 3 nuggets of shit came out as well. And that's the exact moment that the executive producer walked in to try to use his office.
Oh dear.
And he wasn't happy about it.
Why not?
Clearly he had no sense of humour. Well, anyway, as he's telling this story, he makes his way to the last of the wings. And he'd farted. And it was a very wet fart.
Oh dear.
And I thought, there's some follow-through on that one.
Yeah.
Just a couple of wings earlier, I thought I think there was something came out there, and it wasn't just the fart.
No.
But as he got to the last one, you heard it, and there was no mistaking it. And his face, he just kind of froze. And on the other side of the table, Sean Evans was like, "Are you okay? Do we need to get something?" And he's like, and then he turned to the camera. "Did you hear it?" And he'd shit himself.
Fantastic.
In the middle of the Hot Ones Wings challenge. So you need to look that up if you haven't seen it, because it's absolutely hilarious.
I haven't, but I think I need to.
Yes. And on that bombshell...
It kind of puts my story in Catania to shame, really, doesn't it?
You can't compete with that. At least you've never done a Grand Slam.
No.
Yeah, you haven't done a Grand Slam.
No, I haven't done a Grand Slam.
The Grand Slam is when you're so drunk that you shit yourself, piss yourself, and puke all over yourself at the same time. And I only know one person who's done it. I know a couple of people who've done the double.
Yeah.
But only one person who's ever done the Grand Slam. And he was... In fact, I'm not going to mention his name because he might still be alive.
Fair enough. I take it I don't know him then.
No, it was when I was on board HMS Brazen.
Never had it.
Yeah, so that was 30 years ago, easily.
Fair enough, I was 10.
Yeah, no, I doubt you knew it. Yeah. And on that bombshell, that is it for this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. Thanks for turning up for it. I was going to call you Freddie there, I don't know why.
Freddie, it rhymes with Eddie?
I suppose so. Oh, wait, no. And we'll catch you next time.
See you later.